to move agenda item number 10C up because Mr. Sjöberg needs to catch an airplane. We need to, Commissioner Drew? Nope. Anybody have problems with changing that around? Okay. Commissioner, what's that?
The appropriate method of doing that is to move to suspend rules, to move that item in that fashion. And if that is under Robert's Rules of Order, and if you'd like, you could do that at this juncture. That will be in violation of our policy.
Okay, can we get a motion to suspend the rules to move the agenda item?
Move to suspend the rules to move agenda item, what was it?
10C.
10C to in front of 10A.
Yes. Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor of the move? Aye. Okay. John, could you please come back up?
Chairman Robb and Commissioners, John Sjöberg, Chief Fisheries again. I think most of you know Pat Kelly, but introducing Pat Kelly, who's our habitat or wildlife staff specialist and responsible for overseeing the hatchery program. And in response to a number of issues that have come up and some questions and from both the Clark County Game Board and other sportsmen, we wanted to give an overview of where we are currently with the Lake Mead hatchery facility and some description of what's going on there now and some future options and ideas of what we may be able to do with that facility and associated programs in the future.
All right, very good. I am here today to provide you with a little bit of an informational report regarding the hatchery facility and some of the issues and challenges, some of the struggles that we've seen and have been met with kind of head on since basically 2004 is when this really kind of came about. I'd love to be able to tell you that I've got a firm solution to opening this thing right off the bat. As a fish culturist for many years, it irks me, it kills me to see such a beautiful facility sitting there idle and not producing, a million plus fish a year. But unfortunately, there are some issues that we definitely need to look at, and hopefully we can come up with a good solution at some point in time. At any rate, like I said, I did put together this presentation. Some of the numbers that have been basically included in this presentation are several years old, but it does give us a pretty clear indication and an idea as to some of the constraints that we've really been up against. So on the monitor, basically the basic background for the hatchery facility. In 2004, the hatchery underwent a major renovation refurbishment project with a cost of approximately $17 million. Originally built in 1972, the facility began to show some major infrastructure issues, basically spalling concrete. The concrete within the raceways basically just started coming apart. We had some major infrastructure problems with underground piping. The plumbing itself basically was coming apart. So basically, fish production itself resumed at the facility in 2006 after this major renovation. It was limited, however, to basically the months of November through March due to the warm water conditions that existed at that point. In January 2007, quagga mussels were discovered in the hatchery and trout production was halted. Remaining production of those fish, the production fish that were already in that facility, were stocked in Lake Mead and Hobby. This is just a picture of some of the construction that took place. This was the aeration tower that was being constructed at the time. This is just one of the displays that is within the new visitor center up there. This was 2007 when the facility was actually in operation. Guys were moving fish about in the different tanks that are within the hatchery building. This is basically showing the fish production of pre-refurbishment, during refurbishment, post-refurb, and then as of fall of 2012. You can primarily see the Lake Mead and Lake Mojave colors as being, it's a little tough to distinguish the reds and the oranges, but blue and red were Lake Mead, Lake Mojave. As you can see, 2012 showed absolutely no production or no stocking into Lake Mead Mojave. Our problems that we're currently dealing with, water levels in Lake Mead have declined substantially since 2000. Basically, when I put this thing together in August, basically August 21st, our levels were right around 1115, and that's primarily what you see in the 2012 category. Unprecedented drought definitely strikes the west. Upper Colorado River Basin's currently experiencing an unprecedented multi-year drought, which initially began in October '99, with a total of only 30% of average precip totals, setting the stage for the first year of low runoff. These are unregulated flows into Lake Powell, which are indeed a good indicator of drought for the region. This just, you can see the major problems that we'd seen since 2000, with 62% going into 2000, all the way down to 25% in 2002. We did come up in some of those years. Obviously, 2011 was a very, very good year, but again, 2012 has unfortunately dropped off. This graph basically just shows the water levels, what they've done over the past. Basically, you can't see on the bottom of this, but it basically starts from 1999 and comes across, and you can see the trend is definitely on a downward cycle. These were just the lake levels, Lake Mead within 2012, and again, you can see dramatic drops. Quagga mussels in 2007. These are pictures of quaggas that were in the facility itself. These were taken directly out of one of the holding facilities. So we obviously had a problem. Since the detection of the quagga mussels at the facility, no trout production has occurred. And basically this was due to the fact that we didn't want to spread quagga mussels into uninfected waters, and also the risk to the infrastructure itself for the facility. That's just a picture of quagga mussels in a pipe, and that doesn't take very long to occur. So again, like I say, we do have some issues that we have to try and deal with if we are going to try to start running water through this plant. We've got very expensive pumps, obviously irrigation pipes. It doesn't matter what size, we're going to see occlusion through any of these pipes. Work is continuing at the facility. Right now we've got 2 quagga research programs going, one with UNLV, another with Portland State University. They're basically doing some ultraviolet light studies. They're also using, well, thought is primarily using some of these high pressure cannons to maybe try to keep some of these quaggas from accumulating around some of these intake pipes. SNWA can certainly tell you about the quaggas around their intakes. NDOW has a project for rearing endangered razorback suckers, and this is currently ongoing. This is through cooperative effort with BOR. There is no state monies basically being utilized for this program. These are all federal dollars, and they primarily are paying for utilities, salaries for the folks that are indeed raising the razorback out there. And that's just basically a picture of the razorback sucker program. The razorback work is isolated to a fairly small section of the facility so that we're not incorporating quaggas into the facility. This was primarily when this facility was being reworked and revamped, this was indeed expected. We were going to have this Razorback sucker program going on, and it was going to basically be utilized in this small segment, which is, like I say, separated from the rest of the facility. Solutions. In order for the hatchery to get back into full trout production, we would need to find a cooler water source. It's quagga free, obviously. SNWA water intake 3 that's currently under construction could provide that. SNWA treats their water through chlorination and ozone to rid most of the mussels, but it's not quite 100%. The diagram over here basically just kind of gives you, the blue line is primarily the current level of the lake. You can see that the green line is the BMI intake, and that's primarily what we're hooked up to at this point. It's basically 50, maybe 60 feet under the surface of the water right now, and it doesn't provide cool enough water. The two orange lines down there below that thermocline line are SNWA 1 and 2. And the yellow line is the SNWA 3 that is still under construction. With the advent of a new intake, connection fee to SNWA plus costs for a new pipeline would be substantially incurred. Cost was primarily $2.5 million for the connection fee, $3.6 million for, well, the 1 mile 16-inch pipeline that was going to basically run from SNWA plant to the hatchery facility. We would also have to include infrastructure changes, those primarily being dechlorination. Obviously chlorine doesn't do very well for fish. We'd have another UV sterilization system in place, and we would also try to recirculate at least 50% of that water, so we weren't burning through so much water through the facility. Pumping costs from that point forward would approximate probably about $127, $128 per million gallons. During full production, this facility ran somewhere between 5 and 7 million gallons of water a day, which basically equates to somewhere between $640 to $900 per day just in pumping costs, or $240,000 a year. These are just the SNWA intake depths again. And again, you can see that number 3 is substantially down towards the bottom of the lake, and we would certainly be picking up cooler water, and then through the SNWA's filtration and UV sterilization process, fairly quagga free. This basically is just the proposed pipeline site that was put together. This just basically shows from the SNWA plant to the hatchery facility itself, and it's approximately a mile. BMI water use, which we typically, or which we're hooked up to at this particular point in time. In 2002, during full production, Endow was charged $52,879 for water from BMI. During that time, obviously, BMI's line was deeper, and we were getting cooler, quagga-free water. Unfortunately, water from BMI's inlet has now become too warm, obviously too shallow for trout production. Therefore, we would have to chill and filter the water basically coming from BMI, which is going to basically give us another cost to production. This is a filter system primarily that would probably be utilized on our end of it. This thing is a fairly high pressure system that would use high pressure jets to back flush and keep itself clean. You can see basically $256,000, and that's for the equipment only. I still don't have a quotation as to how much they charge to install the thing, but I would suspect probably $80,000 to $100,000. Cost to chill the incoming BMI water, estimates probably, I'd figure $1,000 to $1,200 a day. And those figures were based off of what it costs us at this point to chill a much smaller percentage of water at one of our other facilities in Mason Valley. BMI versus SNWA water. Trout production using current BMI water source is limited by several factors. Summer, fall water temperatures at current lake levels range from 70 to 84 degrees Fahrenheit, and definitely limits our production to midwinter through spring periods without chilling. Expensive retrofits for water chilling and quagga filtration. Production using SNWA water source is feasible, but extremely expensive. Cost for infrastructure and connections would be around $6.1 million. Ongoing water delivery costs would be probably 4.5 to 6 times compared to our historic BMI charges. Cost per pound of fish. We kind of look at how much it typically does cost us to grow out these fish. Lake Mead typically saw somewhere between $250, $290, something like that a pound for fish, which is actually very, very inexpensive considering most of our other facilities in the state probably are somewhere closer to $4 a pound. So by the time you start factoring all the filtration, the chilling, and everything else that's involved, we could certainly see a cost well over $5 a pound for a good, healthy 40-pound fish, which is anywhere between 8 to 10 inches. So in conclusion, due to these extremely high costs, full trout production will probably not likely occur for some time, if at all. And that primarily is just the inability to guarantee fish that would be 100% quagga free. I don't know if any counties would accept fish from this facility knowing that there's quagga in the incoming water sources. A reduced level of trout production along with the Razorback program could probably be a fairly good option. It's just the sources of funding would need to be found for these other infrastructure changes. And that's just what we'd like to do, put fish in the water. So if I can answer anybody's questions, by all means, please.
When I was on the commission the first time we had, there was some talk about the power source also and the need of a new substation. That was pretty costly at that time. Yeah,
I'm a little familiar with it in that I was in the hatchery system at the same time. And yes, the power sources, that was one of the options, and it was extremely expensive, somewhere around the, I think, $7 million range, $4 to $7 million.
When you start adding it all up, we had a $25 million plant. We still don't know if it would work in the end.
And you still don't know 100% if it's going to be there.
Bill?
Yeah, Pat,
Yes, sir.
could you give me just a Reader's Digest version of what is actually being done for the quagga mussel? Because it sounds like it's a large part of the problem besides the water issue.
It is. The quagga mussel is a huge issue.
What's the end game? Where are we going with that?
Well, again, if we did decide to utilize this facility, we would have to filter. I mean, that's really all there is to it. There are, again, like I say, studies that are, ongoing with the quaggas, but really at this point, nobody's really gotten a firm handle as to what it's going to take to eradicate or even control.
It's a shame.
It is a shame.
Commissioner Macbeth?
Last couple Clark County CAB meetings, we're starting to get a groundswell of fishermen, members of the public coming in and
Sure.
asking about the status of the fishery, fish hatchery, and they're doing a lot of checking and research themselves, and they're basically challenging this cost issue that you've raised in this. And
Correct.
one thing I'd like to do is I'd like to, one, get this out. I want to get this PowerPoint presentation. If you could distribute that to the commission, I'd appreciate it. I want to get this out to the cabin, to all the public. And I may also want to get access to whatever plans, or in other words, some more of the details on the infrastructure issues and getting access to this this intake, the new intake.
Sure.
Is that new intake on, by the way? It's
It
not?
is not.
Is that the one that they're still having, they have the problems and the death and all
That's
that?
correct, the
Okay.
cave-ins that they've had and whatnot. I have not discussed anything with SNWA at this particular point in time, and I would like to get down and speak with a couple of folks within their organization. I think that's pretty much the next avenue that I will be taking.
Yeah, I think we owe our Southern Nevada sportsmen and fishermen as much of an in-depth dive into this issue and trying to, at least get the facts out to them so they understand what we're dealing with and the costs. Because I think there's a lot of misinformation out there, and maybe in this process we can find some other avenues and some ways to, get where we need to be. But anyway, this thing has kind of been hanging on for quite a while, and I think, with the appointment of a fisherman on the Clark County cab, and he's been very, very active, and he's doing a lot of stuff outside of the cab and bringing it into these meetings, and I anticipate that it's only going to get more and more involved, and so I just would encourage us to the department and to get out in front of this as much as possible and let's do everything we can to explore this issue and get the facts, and if nothing else it'll get the information out to the fishermen what we're dealing with and the costs, because they were coming back with oh yeah, it's only going to cost a couple $100,000. It's nowhere near what the department is saying, and I look at this and I'm thinking, well,
there's
this is
correct.
a lot of money.
I mean, we're looking at basically $6 million just to get those things fixed. That doesn't even include the operating expenditures that we'll see from that point forward. So, I mean, we really do have, and we owe it to our fishermen, to give them good quality data. And I'd be more than happy to listen to more options. Like I say, it's very frustrating that we have such a beautiful facility that is sitting there dormant.
Yeah, and if I may, a couple of things. We also have a little more research to do, because some of these numbers are based on previous discussions that we did have with Southern Nevada Water Authority, and that was primarily with my predecessor and some other folks we have to track down who weren't available to talk to prior to putting this together. So we have some background on that so that we can, I think, better explain
Correct.
where those numbers were from, but they did derive from discussions with the Water Authority directly in terms of what some of the options were. The second thing I think it's important for people to understand is that we don't, and I don't, have a philosophical problem with stocking trout in the Colorado River system. That's not the issue. Some of us may differ on why we're stocking the trout, but the stocking of trout in the Colorado River system reservoirs is not a philosophical issue, and we believe that it's a valuable asset to the fishing opportunities down here. The problem is, how the heck do we pay for it? And how do we structure that within the limits of what we can do with the facility at a given cost, and how do we pay for it both in the short term and long term? And those are the real issues that need to be resolved. It isn't that, that we don't want to necessarily provide that opportunity. That's not it at all. It's a matter of finding out how to do it.
One other thing that you might do, now that I've seen the cost per pound, analysis, is maybe get some context to that as to what other fish hatcheries, cost, because, I looked at the numbers and I thought, okay, that's good, but and maybe get a point of reference as to what
Sure.
what the cost is at other fisheries, so we can kind of lay that out to everybody as well.
Well, again, like I say, within our state system itself, we're probably looking at somewhere right around $3.85 a pound to produce fish within our state. And that's really not that far off from other states adjacent to us. So, but we can certainly, get some numbers down, very concrete, and that'll certainly help.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, believe me, if we could have figured out a way to get this thing producing, we'd have done it a long time ago. To have a $17 million facility just sitting there like a white elephant just galls everybody. We've taken a number of measures to try to reduce the cost of the sportsmen of the state. In fact, we're down to, I think, one person at the facility?
One
Correct.
person at the
To keep-
facility was
to keep the
funded.
lights on, make sure it's maintained so it's not deteriorating. Also, I've asked, we've got this beautiful visitor center there. We've not been able to use because the water that runs the fire system is quagga water, and one time going on, and then we've got an infrastructure problem that costs a lot of money to fix. They did do a recent survey, and the system is clear of quaggas, so that's good. I started asking the feds whether they would like to have this hatchery. Maybe we could get, unload it, and then maybe buy fish if we need to for the, of course, no one's interested in a facility like that. We have quite a bond that we're paying on an annual basis with, from the trout stand. And then we started looking at, with Southern Nevada Water Authority, we thought, well, maybe there's connections politically, we could get them to waive it, let's say the hookup fee. But we still have a mile of a pipeline that we have to build, which is rather expensive. We thought for a while that Southern Nevada Water Authority might be buying BMI, which the pipe comes right to the facility, and that would exclude that. So, we've had a lot of these things we thought were going to happen and that didn't happen, and they did not buy BMI. Now, would we stay in the drought? Who knows? BMI is going to have an issue there too. So, and then we start looking at $5 a pound of the fish. That just, we don't want to put money down a rat hole. And I'm convinced that the feds will not let us plant these fish anywhere the quaggas don't already exist because of endangered species issues that we've got to jump through. So it's a very, very sticky problem.
Commissioner McBeth.
I would just say that, we've got some, people from the south here that have some political connections, and so let's, let us help.
Yeah,
Commissioner,
Mr. Chairman, Ken, it seems like where the fishermen aren't so much, they are challenging the numbers a little bit, but where they're going is the lost revenue to businesses and to the department. And I don't know, their information was kind of, haphazardly put together, and I don't know if you guys have got analysts that actually have put a dollar amount to the lost revenue to in the big picture. Because I grew up here. There's no secret. There's no fishing at Lake Mead anymore like there used to be, and there's not a lot of bait shops. There's not a lot of boat shops, and it's not just because of fishing. It's obviously because of the drought as well. But lost revenue from boat registrations, fishing licenses, trout stamps. They talk a lot about all those things, but primarily they were talking about the businesses in Henderson and Boulder City, and they had, they got good information, but it's haphazardly put together, and I don't know that there's an actual resource or somebody that actually could do a cost analysis of this picture and weigh the costs of what we're talking about versus what we're losing in revenue from jobs and whatnot. Because there's no question there's some jobs lost, and it just hurts the hell out of our economy down here in the fishing economy.
Yeah, there's no doubt it's having an effect on the economy here, especially the small mom and pop kinds of stuff, and the marinas and whatnot. I don't think we're really in a position to do that kind of a fiscal, economic analysis of what the business cost of business would be. But we'd certainly be open to a community effort to try to get this thing going, and maybe everybody in the Southern Nevada Water Authority, could use the good publicity that they're going to waive this, and maybe we figure out a way. We really need cold water because the chilling, if you have to ozonate it, chlorinate it, and chill it, it becomes crazy. We also looked at, and I've been bugging these guys about, well, what about warm water fishery? Well, you don't raise bass and catfish in raceways. You do it in ponds. So it's a whole different operation, and we don't have that much use for, we can buy what we need cheaper from the warm water fisheries perspective. So, both John and Pat are available to talk with folks and, kind of look into maybe ways of everybody pulling together somehow to get across the goal line.
Commissioner Rainey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Sjöberg, have you looked into private hatcheries and other places, asking them what it would cost to get fish from them? I know there's not much in Nevada, but in surrounding areas, I know there are some. Have you
We've actually used that in the past, and we did use that to fill in some of the stocking in Southern Nevada at the time that the hatchery was shut down for the renovation in the early 2000s. That's always an option. It's not necessarily the best option. When you add transportation costs, the fish aren't necessarily going to be much cheaper, if at all. You also don't have the control over disease problems that you do if we're raising them ourselves.